Hello everybody, my name's Reevesy, you're watching Week of Geek, and today I want to speak to you about World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is easy, right? So, I think World of Warcraft is easy, and I think there's loads of hard content out there, and there's lots of challenging stuff to do, but the main body of an expansion, which is, for me, personally, leveling and experiencing the content. I'm talking about doing dungeons, I'm talking about questing, specifically I'm talking about everything up until endgame, and that hard endgame content where you have to find a group to search for stuff. I am including LFR into this, and I am including heroic dungeons, anything before Mythic Plus and hardcore like Mythic raiding. Now, I do appreciate that there's lots of different audiences for World of Warcraft, and me, somebody who's played World of Warcraft for 16 years, might find this a lot easier than a newcomer who's only just getting started, or somebody who got started a few expansions ago. But for me, personally, it's a problem. It is too easy, and sometimes it takes the enjoyment out of it. What I'd like to do today is suggest a solution as to how we fix that, but also discuss why is it so easy in the first place. So let's start with that. Let's discuss why it's so easy. If any of you played Classic WoW or World of Warcraft Vanilla, whichever one you'd like to call it, you might know that this game was very different back then. To the point of questing was challenging, it was hard. If you took on one too many enemies, you were going to die. And there was quite a lot of times where you'd have to find a group and get with a group to do some content. And when you were in a dungeon, you had to really think about every encounter that you was going to do, because if you didn't, you could die. There's this constant risk of dying, and then it would cost loads to repair your armor, so that was something. The money wasn't as free-flowing as what it is now. There was loads of things that you had to think about, and it was just harder. It was quite challenging to get through a lot of the content. That might have been too hard. In fact, for Vanilla, up until the Burning Crusade, I didn't even hit max level, probably because it was so hard and so long. So that might be too much. But what I see now is you get a new expansion and you can complete most of the content in around 10 hours. You can complete that expansion questing content. Then it's this daily grind of dungeons, which once the player base has kind of gotten involved with it and tried it, then that's easy, that's ticked off because they know exactly what's happening. And then you go on to heroic dungeons, and maybe you start getting involved in some raid stuff. Now again, I'm not talking about the mythic hardcore raiding. I get how hard that is, and I appreciate there's lots of hard stuff if you go looking for it. But up until that point, it's just a bit of a walk in the park. So classic was too hard. This might be a bit too easy, but for a lot of new players and people getting involved in the game, this is perfect. For a lot of people who don't have the time to invest like people had in Classic, which is a lot of time, this type of game is perfect. For people who want to play this game very casually, the current setup works. I get it, and that is exactly why Blizzard are doing this. They're looking at their target audience, they're looking at all of the people who grew up this game, right? Who had lots of time and now potentially don't have time, and looking at how can we make all of our player base happy. And that answer is, of course, giving some hardcore content for the people who really want it right at the end, and then everybody else still gets to experience this game. And I guess that's the point. That's the bit that I'd like to come back to. I don't think that's good enough. I don't think that works for me, and I love this game. I don't want to slate it, and this is not me kind of calling it out. I would love to enjoy that experience up until that hardcore content as much as I can. I would love to feel myself challenged by quests and have to ask people for help and have to look for this community to support me, because I cannot do it alone, or have to go off and do something else and come back and do a piece of content. That for me is a very good gaming experience, which brings me nicely onto my solution. How do Blizzard cater for the entire audience? How do they engage all of those people throughout the whole of the game and not just the end content? So here it is, my suggestion, the solution. We already have a difficulty system included in World of Warcraft, and that is the normal, heroic and mythic. That's what you use in dungeons, that's what you use in raids, right? My suggestion is copying from another one of Blizzard's games, which is Diablo, and changing the difficulty of your story content to one of those tiers. So hear me out. Here's the example. You would start a brand new expansion on normal difficulty. Everybody would have to go through the story contents of that expansion on normal. Once you've then completed that, you would have the option to go back and do it on a difficult setting. And that could be heroic, and then you could eventually work up to mythic. So what that does is two things. It gives Blizzard the chance to offer the type of gameplay to every single person who plays this game. You play this game as you want. You can choose just to play on normal and just enjoy the casual experience and do your weekly stuff. That's fine. Or if you're like me and you like a challenge to your game and would like to experience the leveling content and the story at a different difficulty, then you can go ahead and do that. And you can genuinely have challenging, engaging fights and enjoy the story in a way that you would like to do it. All Blizzard would have to do is create another instance, like they do with War Mode, which we know they've got the technology for, and when you're in that instance, the enemies would have either better AI, which would be quite expensive to implement, but we know they've got the technology for the AI because of the island expeditions in Battle for Azeroth, or they just up the health pools and the amount of damage they do, which means these enemies aren't smarter, but they're a lot harder to kill, which means you've got to be careful about how many you pull, right? That is one way of doing it. And to add to that, they can make the quests different. They could slightly vary them. For an example, if you have to kill 5 of these things in normal, you could have to kill 5 of these things without your main weapon. And I don't know, that's probably a bit silly, that's probably a bit far-fetched, but that's a way of varying that quest and varying the way you experience that game to suit a difficult setting. And when you step up to Mythic, again, this is more work and probably not likely. They could have these enemies acting like mini bosses. They could have loads of telegraphed attacks, and they could be genuinely really hard to take down. So, to recap, I understand that this game has changed in how difficult it is. And it's done that because it has to cater to a variety of different types of players. And I do understand that there is content out there which is harder, but the majority of it is too easy in the beginning of an expansion, I feel like anyway. And my solution to that is to offer a tiered system for the expansion and for the story and lore and the questing. So you could do normal, heroic and mythic. And that's it really, that's the idea, and that's how, for me, you can solve this problem of some of the player base, probably quite a lot of the player base, not being satisfied with the difficulty of the leveling journey and the quest and the story. Probably one of the best bits about an expansion, just not being hard enough for them and not being challenging enough. Let me know what you think about the idea, and let me know if I've missed anything out or if I'm just being straight up ignorant to something which I just don't know about. Please leave a comment and like the video, and of course subscribe if you want to see more content like this from this channel. Thank you very much, we'll see you next time.